Welcome to episode 15 of the Wiley Wire. Today we're covering the whole State of the Union speech by President Donald Trump. It was a speech that had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, I would say, for the Democrats. It wasn't a good night for them. I let about a day of comments set in. And I first off just want to say before we get into the show that, I voted Democrat, I voted Independent, I voted Republican. I'm a policy voter. What I am not is part of a team, which is the Republican or the Democratic team. That's something you need to pick if you're going to run, because obviously independents don't have any chance of winning in this system. So you have to pick what side you're running as a candidate. But I'm a policy voter. And for the last few elections, whether it be government, state elections, I vote for policy. And right now, the Republicans are a party of common sense. The policies are common sense. And the Democrats, for the most part, have fallen off a cliff when it comes to common sense. And throughout the State of the Union speech, I'm going to highlight examples of this. If there is something positive about the Democrats, I could definitely give you some info on that. There was one small positive. There is one or two Democrats that look like they may have some common sense. Other than that, the high definitely was the U.S. team coming in, and the low was the outlook that Democrats got after this speech was over, because it was really bad. And even people on the far left, or even the middle left, are admitting it. And it's just something that is unfortunate. Watching it, I was almost like, this has got to be like a rendition of Saturday Night Live or something. But it was real. But we'll break it down. Welcome to the Wiley Wire.
The Wiley Wire weekly episode of What's Trending.
Gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
A night for U.S. men's Olympic hockey. It was the highlight of the whole night. It was the only time the Democrats actually stood the entire night, believe it or not. The other time about half of them stood was when Trump announced a bill of no more insider trading. And he even laughed. He didn't think any of them would stand. So some of them stood for that. But other than that, they didn't stand for anything. So it was a crazy moment. But let's talk again about the men's Olympic hockey team. When they entered the State of the Union speech, the entire crowd erupted, nonstop clapping, USA chants, led by the Kachuk brothers. It was just a monumental moment. And it showed the unity that can happen through sports, and it was definitely the highlight of the speech for me. Connor Hellebuyck got the Medal of Freedom, which I think is a really unbelievable award. Well-deserved. This is going to go down as one of the greatest hockey games, greatest hockey victories of all time, second to the Miracle. Because again, the Miracle, they were college kids that were not pros, and they were playing the Russians, who were all pros in their mid to late 20s, some in their 30s. And a couple of weeks prior, they beat the NHL All-Stars like 7-3 at Madison Square Garden. So that was a miracle on ice. But again, I talked about it last episode, what they were stacked up against with Canada, their offensive firepower. Canada definitely had the best team on paper, but that U.S. squad was designed to beat Canada, and they didn't take the best players, and they left a lot of offensive firepower off the team. And I'll admit, I was a kind of a stickler on the roster when Jason Robertson was left off, but the coaches were right. I was wrong. It worked out. And again, congratulations to the U.S. men's Olympic team. It was just amazing. But I do want to touch base on a little controversy that started, and it's all bullshit. The women's Olympic team wasn't at the State of the Union. They already had separated. It was a week after their tournament. To get all of them back together and at the State of the Union that quick was almost impossible. And that's why they declined the State of the Union visit. Now, they are going to go to the White House in the future. That's already being planned. And then the USA men's team, they love the women's team. They've worked out with them for years. And anybody's in the hockey community, like I am, there's no ill will at all from the men's team towards the women's team or the women's team towards the men's team. It's just all bullshit and gaslighting. There's always those hecklers out there that try to drum up the negative. Now let's talk quickly about the phone call where Trump said, I got to invite the women. He was just joking around. It's just humor. It's no different than if Trump was on the phone with the women's Olympic team and he said, I got to invite the guys too. Everyone just got to, again, relax, stop. And most of the people out there that are complaining about this never once played hockey, never once played sports. They're just thumb twitching, commenters that all they're trying to do is drum up controversy. So I don't see any controversy here. Women's team's going to the White House. Obviously, it was logistics. They couldn't get them all there to the State of the Union, especially with the travel and the snowstorm and all of that. Trump sent a military jet to pick up the entire U.S. men's team because they're all in one spot celebrating the game. That's just gaslighting and all that. So let's just throw all that out. It was a great moment at the State of the Union. And when we're back in segment 2, I'm going to turn into a political consultant. I think the Democrats should hire me. I probably wouldn't take the job because if they're faking this, I don't want them to win ever again the way they acted at the State of the Union. But I'll play political consultant.
With this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Man, I wish somebody would offer me millions of dollars to be a political consultant because everything the Democrats did during the State of the Union address, other than stand for the U.S. Olympic team, that was the only thing they did. They need some help. I'll take the job. It's unbelievable. I'm telling you. Watching that, I thought, again, I was watching like a comedy show. How do you not stand when you're elected by American citizens and you're proposed a question if you support illegal aliens over American citizens and they stayed seated? We all are paying their salaries through our tax dollars. and they're supporting illegal aliens over American citizens, and they weren't able to stand for that. Trump really cornered him in that. He owned them tonight. I tell you what, that was really bad. I watched a bunch of different networks, CNN, I watched MSNBC, and even like some of the far left commentators and some of the middle left commentators were like, this is a bad night. I mean, even David Axelrod, which is like Obama's political consultant, said it was a bad night. And I don't understand what the Democrats are doing at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. Zero sense. That's going to be a clip that's played in every campaign in the midterms. There's just so much footage. And with politics, you know, I'm not somebody that believes in this, but unfortunately, so many people have jobs that are not seeing what's really going on, or they're just not interested. But it's all clips like this and little sound bites of people saying a thing or two that is crazy, which a lot of those can be created now, but this is real footage. This is real vocabulary. This is real statements, and it was not good for the Democrats. So it's just unbelievable. So that clip you saw of them not standing on X from Project Constitution, of Democrats sitting on the most obvious question that you get voted in any seat in government that you have to stand for. And they all stayed seated. It's crazy. But then again, you go into more things like a slain girl, Irina, from Ukraine, came from the Ukrainian area of war, trying to find a safe place to live, comes over to the United States, gets a job. She leaves her job, gets on the bus, and she's killed by a illegal immigrant that isn't supposed to be in the country, came in under the Biden open borders, was arrested earlier. The cop that arrested him couldn't believe he was let out, and he ended up killing this poor girl from the Ukraine. During the State of the Union speech, Trump named a new bill after her, and it's supposed to help illegal alien crime. And he said that to her mother, who was in the stands, and the Democrats stayed seated. Roll clip from Disclosed TV of the slain girl's mother. It's unbelievable.
No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretsky, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand?
I mean, the fact that you're an American and you can't even stand for that is absolutely disgusting. So I don't know how these people are in office. I think that they're bought and paid for 100%, no doubt about it. I mean, you can imagine like 15 years ago at a State of the Union, doesn't matter who's the president, and nobody was standing for that. Something's gone wrong here. Someone's took a big chunk of money. I think a lot of the politicians on the left, if you kind of look at some of them, they don't even seem like they belong there, or they don't even, it doesn't even feel like they can do the job. They're not equipped to do the job. So it's just amazing to me that some of these people got elected, especially somebody that just came from another country, hasn't been here that long, and somehow they're elected. Not that that can't happen. It's more unlikely. So it's just, to me, again, something seems off here. And then you had the little girl, she was struck by an illegal truck driver who obviously shouldn't be driving. And Trump passed a law that you cannot be a commercial driver unless you are an American citizen. You're not allowed to do that. And this poor little girl was hit. They didn't think she was going to live. She's making a really good recovery, and her father holds her up, and she's waving at the crowd, and they're all staying seated. It's something that, like, I guess, like I said, something's wrong. Something's wrong here. You know, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Something is wrong here, that you can't stand for that. A poor little girl that is making a recovery from something that they caused. Maybe it's guilt. They caused it. The open borders is what caused all this. These examples wasn't for the border being open. The girl from the Ukraine wouldn't be dead. And the girl that got hit by the truck wouldn't be in this situation. And there's others too that he highlighted. I'm not going to cover all of them, but this is another one that was just eye-opening to me. And then this one, to me, you know, I like growing up in Chicago, like Democrats their whole party back in the day, call it the grandfather Democrat, was, you know, you're for unions, you're for the hardworking blue collar people. That was like their voter base. Now it's totally flipped, and they are the establishment. They are the big government. They are all of that now. It's changed. So Trump talked about no income tax. So everyone just sit back and think about that. So the tariffs that were overruled by the Supreme Court, he brought that up. He said the deals with the countries are so good that none of the countries are going to cancel the deal, even though the Supreme Court ruled in the country's favor, because they don't want to do another deal of Trump because he's saying it's going to be worse for them. So they're keeping their deals, 95% of the countries. He talks about this, but he said the tariff thing is all about eventually getting rid of federal income tax. So back in the 30s, don't quote me on this, I'm not a great historian, but when tariffs were in place, there was no income tax. And it worked. And Trump wants that. He wants you to look at your paycheck and see federal income tax zero. Imagine that. Imagine employees looking at their check and saving all that money. And the Democrats didn't stand for no income tax. So that tells you everything right there. I don't even know if they have a platform to stand on. It really makes no sense to me. And what really struck out at me was whenever they say racism, they have nothing to stand on. They don't have a foot to stand on because that's all they end up going back to because it's all they have. There's nothing else to say. They have nothing confident to say or nothing that is worth a listen. They just go to racism. And then you have Rashida Tlaib sitting in the crowd with a, fuck ICE pin on. So those are federal employees, federal workers just doing their job. Whether you agree with it or not, you're basically saying like, fuck the police, fuck ICE, and you're working for the American people. It's out of line. They need help, and they got to get these people out of office. It's ruining the country. It really is. I don't care. I want the old Democrat Party back. I want the regular politicians that are pro-country. You might not agree with some of the things that they want, but at the same time, they're at least part of a system that is good for the country. And these Democrats are not. Like I talked about earlier in the show, Democrats used to be about the hardworking people, the blue-collar voter, and it's gone. It really is. I mean, I don't really see how anybody can vote Democratic after seeing this. Trump passed a law, or a bill, I should say, and he's trying to get it basically never to be overturned ever, that big corporations are no longer able to buy residential homes. And in the last I mean, I don't know how many years, maybe 5 to 10 years, they've been buying up these homes like crazy, 500 at a time, and renting them out, outbidding an American family trying to afford the home or buy the home. They're outbidding them, paying in cash. And it's great for builders, but it isn't good for American people. And if you're I call it a grandfather Democrat, you're all up in arms about this, or at least you're pretending to be, but they're not even pretending anymore. They really don't give a shit. They don't. And Trump he passed a bill passed a law, I should say, that outlaws big corporations from buying residential family homes to keep the American dream going. So roll clip of the RSBN on X of Trump talking about big corporations involved in the housing market.
Tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of 2 from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon.
How do you not stand for that? What party are you? What do you stand for? The Democrats don't have a platform. There is no platform. It just seems like it's bought and paid for nonsense and people sticking to things they were told to do. I can't see anybody that's an American citizen that would vote for what they were sitting down for. It is unbelievable. Then I'm going to get into transgenderism. And listen, this is America. If you want to become a man and you're a woman, or you want to become a woman if you're a man, that's why America is the greatest country in the world. If you look at it that way, you can do that if you want. Bruce Jenner, the Olympian, is now a woman. Caitlyn Jenner. You can do what you want. But when it starts involving our kids, that's where I have a problem. A big problem. Number one, in California, a 12-year-old can go and get transitioned without their parents' consent. A 12-year-old. Think about that. Let that set in for a second. And Trump wants to pass a law that parents have consent, need to have consent for this to happen if the child is under 18. He even said it, the fact that we're even talking about this, that a young girl or boy can get transitioned without their parents' consent, to me is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Kids growing up, they go through different mental stages. There's all different factors of this. And let's just say someone truly is, right off the bat, wants to be a girl their whole life, they can wait till they're 18. Gives them enough time to decide if they really want to go through with a surgery like that. And the fact that Democrats won't even stand for a bill that doesn't allow children under 18 to go and get transitioned without their consent, parent consent. I mean, if you're voting for that, so be it. But this is absolutely bonkers. Roll the clip from Caitlin Collins of CNN. She posted on X on Trump talking about transitioning.
No state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
After that, and just seeing where our country's gone in the last 15 years is wild. There's always been transgender men and women out there. It's usually always adults that have done it, or even a man that dresses like a woman, or a woman that dresses like a man, or whatever. It's always been out there. But once you involve kids, if a kid has to wait till he's 18 to smoke cigarettes or 21 to drink or whatever, you're allowing a child who's still developing, still figuring out who they are, getting comfortable with themselves, are going to a doctor without parental consent and changing their gender is just bonkers to me. It's fucking crazy. So they need to pass this bill, and 18 years old, if that's, it's a free country, it's America, you can do what you want, but at least when you're 18, I think a child will fully understand if they really want to do this, and the parents can have consent up until that age. But it's just wild. And also I'm going to talk about a positive for the Democrats. You have somebody in your party that is a grandfather Democrat. His name's John Fetterman. Is probably called a fake Democrat now. He's just a Republican spy, working as a Democrat. He's what the Democrat Party used to be. He's how the Democrat Party can possibly win in the future. But the damage is done so bad that he might as well just become a Republican, because the party is actually making him stronger in the Democratic Party, but the fact that he's a Democrat can cause problems for him. So he's actually polling higher for Republicans in Pennsylvania than he is Democrats. I'm going to put that up on the screen in a second. Yeah, he's polling higher with Republicans than he is in Democrats in Pennsylvania. I'm going to roll a clip. He basically says everything I'm saying in the show. You got to stand for what you believe in, stand up for good things that the country's doing. It's not about, the Democrat Party has just come about hate Trump and illegal immigrants and racism. That's all they talk about. Hate Trump, illegal aliens, and racism.
A lot of those things that the rest of people in my party would stand up and clap for. I clapped with a lot of those things that it seemed like others. Like I stood up and I clapped to recognize the family that lost their daughter, the Ukrainian girl that was stabbed to death, in North Carolina. And I stood up and I clapped that political prisoner from Venezuela, how you can't celebrate those kinds of things. And now I also celebrated all the veterans that were in the audience as well, too. And even more the political things like Erica Kirk. I stood up and I clapped for her as well, too. Now, here, can't we just be more kind to a widow? I mean, we just shouldn't be that long ago that a widow, with young children has her husband murdered, how we can't just acknowledge that as well, too. Wow. Whether white people would attack her, whether the left or the right either. So I'm always going to stand up and clap for things that I agreed with in, like striking the Iranian, sites now for me. I never worry about who's standing up or clapping. If I see it, I'm going to. If I don't agree with it or whatever, I'm certainly not going to yell and scream and disrupt the whole thing.
Now let's go to the cool parts of the State of the Union. Some of our heroes, war veterans, just amazing stories, especially Royce Williams, 100 years old, got the Medal of Honor in his heroic dogfight in the 1952 Korean War. My grandfather was part of the Korean War and World War II. My grandma just turned 100, so seeing how he was standing up and waving everybody was pretty wild. And then you have the unbelievable story of just a few weeks back when we went into Venezuela and captured Maduro. It was just unbelievable. This Eric Slover, he was a helicopter pilot that landed the helicopter on top of Maduro's compound. He was already shot multiple times in his leg, bleeding all through the helicopter. He knew if he aborted the mission that none of the American troops would have got out. So he landed the helicopter. The other military guys were on the helicopter seeing the blood come down, because as you land a helicopter, it's, upright. They went in, did their job, got Maduro, got back in the helicopter, and he flew them home with multiple gunshot wounds to his leg and hip. Unbelievable. He got the Medal of Honor. Talk about sacrifice. I don't know if it gets any crazier than that. And then Connor Buck got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's given out to civilians. It's the highest civilian award. We've talked about him, how great he was in the Olympics. Ruskin. Yeah, he saved the girl in Texas. Not only to save her, he saved 164 girls that day. If you remember that, the flooding that happened in Texas at that Camp Mystic, where all those people unfortunately passed away, he saved 164 girls in that devastating flooding storm. He got the Legion Medal of Merit. Just amazing. And then another Purple Heart was given out to Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf of the National Guard. He was shot in the head in that incident near the White House, and he survived. A long story was told about how his mother was so positive that he was going to live and get through this, and nobody else, even the doctors, believed that. But he ended up surviving. He was at the State of the Union standing. You can see he's still recovering, but he was on his 2 feet, standing, smiling. Amazing story. And then Sarah Beckstrom, who died in that shooting, received the Purple Heart as well. I saw a clip. I forgot the news host. I don't even care. It's just so bad. Who cares where it's from? You just hearing it, you can probably figure out what network it was from or what type of media person it is. But she actually said that Trump gave out too many medals. It was like an Oprah Winfrey show giving out prizes. I mean, this is where our country has come to. If you really think about this, for someone to say that, it's on the air, and they don't get fired, I mean, it's being promoted. It's definitely being promoted. There's no other reason, no other way to look at it. It's being promoted, and they're actually being awarded for saying stuff like that. We're talking about 200-year-old military veterans, a guy that saved a bunch of soldiers on a helicopter, who got Maduro. And by the way, Maduro wasn't a left or right thing. Biden had like a $25 million bounty on him, or I don't know, maybe even more than that. He had a bounty on Maduro. So it's just anything Trump does, it's bad. It's just unbelievable. And then, guy saved 164 girls. It was his first mission too. It's his first rescue mission he's ever done. Saved 164 girls. It's just It's disgusting. I don't know what party this is. I don't know, that person that said that's not a political official, but yeah, obviously I would call it a deranged Democrat. I have to call her. I want the old Democrat Party back. I'm not saying I'd vote for a Democrat if the old Democrat Party was back, but if at least the policies are good and they're great for the citizens, I don't really care what party you're from, but I'll never vote Democrat, ever. And I don't know how some of these people that are voting for them, they just must not know what's going on. Another part of the State of the Union address I want to talk about is the voter fraud part that happened. I mean, it got me really thinking. I've definitely done some segments on this in past episodes, but it's got to be the only way some of these people are getting elected on the Democrat side, because, obviously money is getting thrown into Republicans and Democrats too, but I really feel like it's a test experiment. You can actually take somebody that, isn't very smart, doesn't really know much, fund a ton of money into them, tell them what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and just keep funneling money. Because I really can't see how some of these people got into the government. A lot of them have been here for a long time. They're absolutely loaded with money. I mean, to become have $50 million or $100 million, be worth that type of money, being a politician and never having a business, makes me wonder. But roll the clip of voter fraud. It was from Storm Reddix on X. It was a clip from the State of the Union that was put out by Storm Reddix on X. Roll that clip.
Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it.
Yeah, this is just something I don't understand. I try to give a regular analogy. Let's just say I'm a card player, which I'm not. So if I get this wrong, you card players could, whatever. But let's just say there's 10 card players. 6 of them have decks with an extra ace in it. And they get caught. The 4 other players' card decks get checked. All the cards are in there. There's no extra cards. But these other 6 players keep going, why do you have to check my cards? Why do you have to check my deck of cards? Keep asking that. What are you going to think right then and there? Doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. You don't need a degree from Yale to figure that out, or MIT. They're cheating. That's it. They use a racism card and it's so stupid. Trump nails this right on the head. We got to get voter ID. You need an ID. You need to be a citizen to vote. You can't vote in France if you're an American or an illegal immigrant in France. You can't vote in some other countries if you're an illegal immigrant. You can't. It's just the rules. So this isn't something that needs to be debated. It's just a way that'll be eliminated for cities in Democrat-run states to cheat. That's it. I mean, if they weren't cheating, they would say, fine, yeah, here's the voter IDs. Let's do it. I want the elections to be safe. I want them to be secure, And it's funny, the ones that say our elections are safe and secure are the ones that, well, they're not. It's the same people saying, I don't have an extra ace in my deck. I don't have an extra ace card in my deck. Same scenario. So we'll be back with our final segment, our WTF segment. You're not going to want to miss this one.
The Wiley Wire segment, where Brandon asks,
What the fuck is this?
So this is our WTF section. And what the fuck are the Democrats doing? This one just made me laugh. I mean, I don't even know. Somebody needs to get a hold of them and talk about like consultation. You know, we got to do things better. The murder rate in the United States is at its lowest number in 125 years. That's just 1 year in the Trump presidency. And it was fact-checked by CBS, not Fox News, CBS. And it was true. I'll put it up on the screen there, the fact-check post that they put up. But you got to start to wonder, how do you not stand up for the murder rate in your country going down to the lowest point in 125 years? Do you want more murders? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? At least stand up for that. They want more murders? It's got to the point where it's so deranged that you can't even make it up anymore. You can't make it up anymore. If Democrats will hire me as a consultant, I'm open for business. Just kidding. They're not calling me. But really, though, it is unbelievable what they are doing. I mean, what is their platform? Murder, illegal aliens, innocent people getting killed on a bus, you know, the stock market being low. They want that to happen. They're for the U.S. hockey team. I guess that's a good thing. But other than that, I don't know what is going on. So that's my WTF. You didn't stand for a 125-year low of murder in your country? You stay seated for that? Wackos. Absolute wackos. I don't know what else to say. We'll be back with the wrap. That's a wrap of episode 15 of the Wiley Wire. Please follow us, like us, download our episodes at the Wiley Wire. We're on all platforms. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying wired.
The Wiley Wire dives into sports, music, politics, health, and trending topics for entertainment, info, and education. Listener discretion advised. May include mature themes, explicit language, controversial views, or sensitive content. Not suitable for under 18 or all audiences. Parents, please supervise. All opinions from hosts, guests, and contributors are personal and don't reflect our official views. Information isn't guaranteed to be accurate. Do your own research and consult qualified professionals.